This animated diagram tracks registered voter totals across the United States between 2020 and 2024. Over this four-year timeline, the Democratic Party lost roughly 2.1 million registered voters, while the Republican Party gained 2.4 million. Shifting this data into a heat map of U.S. battleground states reveals an even larger trend. In places like Pennsylvania and Arizona, the fastest-growing demographic isn't joining either side. They are registering as independent or unaffiliated. High-profile political figures are mirroring this exact shift at the national level. Former Congresswoman and presidential candidate Tulsi Gabbard departed the party in 2022, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. ran as an independent in 2024 before endorsing the Republican ticket. Both figures echo a political sentiment first popularized by Ronald Reagan. They argue they didn't leave the Democratic Party, the party left them. Prominent lawmakers from within the party's own ranks have made similar exits. Former Senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema both dropped their Democratic affiliation to become independents, citing frustrations with strict ideological purity tests and a sharp leftward lurch. These high-level departures, combined with millions of changing voter registrations, point to a distinct shift in the electorate. A coalition historically built around the common working person is increasingly perceived as a platform driven by elite cultural progressivism. Examining how political factions evolve requires looking closely at local and national reporting. Shasta Unfiltered is dedicated to serving the North State with honest news and entertainment, tracking exactly these kinds of cultural shifts. To understand why the modern Democratic Party is alienating some of its core voters today, we have to look backward. Tracing its nearly 200-year history reveals a series of sharp ideological pivots. The Democratic Party has survived longer than any other active political party in the United States by repeatedly shifting its core mission. It has redesigned its platform across three distinct eras to match a changing America. In its early decades, the party served as the political engine for states' rights and Southern agrarian interests. Throughout the mid-19th century, its platforms actively defended the institution of slavery, insisting it remain a matter of state sovereignty. After the Civil War, Southern Democrats organized to resist federal Reconstruction efforts meant to protect freed Black Americans. State legislatures under their control quickly enacted Black codes, which later evolved into strict Jim Crow laws designed to legally limit civil rights. This political strategy frequently relied on intimidation. The Ku Klux Klan formed in the late 1860s to target Black Americans and Republicans, and its first Grand Wizard, Nathan Bedford Forrest, was a prominent Democrat. The group's terror tactics helped the party suppress the Black vote and regain control of the South. For its entire first century of existence, the political survival and electoral success of the Democratic Party relied heavily on preserving racial segregation and limiting federal authority. The Great Depression triggered the party's first broad ideological transformation. Under President Franklin D. Roosevelt, Democrats built the New Deal coalition, reimagining the party's purpose through an expansive federal response to economic collapse. This new platform actively recruited labor unions, immigrants, working-class voters, and minorities. By championing programs like Social Security and strong labor protections, the party positioned itself as the defender of ordinary Americans against big business interests. The sheer economic devastation of the 1930s made this strategy possible. Voters reeling from poverty embraced this strong federal intervention, creating the enduring archetype of the Roosevelt Democrat. Within a single generation, the party successfully overwrote its agrarian states' rights past. It emerged as a modern powerhouse defined by labor-focused, blue-collar economic progressivism. In the 1960s, Democratic presidents John F. Kennedy and Lyndon B. Johnson advanced landmark civil rights legislation, pushing through the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 required overcoming fierce, organized opposition from the segregationist Southern wing of their own party. The passage of these laws accelerated a deep demographic realignment. Black voters, who had faced a century of suppression from Southern Democrats, became the core electoral base of the modern Democratic Party. By championing federal civil rights, the party successfully shed its segregationist wing. At the same time, this pivot initiated a long-term exodus of Southern white voters, who gradually shifted their registration to the Republican Party. By the late 20th century, the focus had shifted again. In recent decades, the party heavily prioritized identity politics, emphasizing race, gender, and sexuality, a cultural progressivism often described as woke, over its traditional focus on working-class economics. Alongside this cultural shift, democratic socialism gained significant traction within the party ranks. Proposals like the Green New Deal, wealth taxes, and Medicare for All now heavily influence the party's policy goals. These proposals for expanded state control over industry mirror centralized models that faced significant challenges in the 20th century. Historically, even strictly communist states like the Soviet Union and China reached points of stagnation where they had to embrace capitalist reforms to survive, as seen with the market-oriented policies introduced by Deng Xiaoping in 1978. The party has also taken a strong stance against stricter voter integrity measures, consistently opposing mandatory photo ID at the polls. This position holds despite polling that shows 70 to 80% of the public, including many Democrats, support basic ID requirements. This combination of elite cultural progressivism and socialist-leaning economics is driving the current political fracture. For many longtime constituents, this latest iteration of the party has simply moved too far away from its pragmatic common people roots. The data tracks the fallout from these ideological pivots. The recent 4.1 million voter swing benefiting the Republican Party is a direct, measurable consequence of the Democratic Party's latest reinvention. By heavily prioritizing identity politics over broad, blue-collar economic concerns, the party is dismantling the New Deal coalition that sustained it for nearly a century. The upcoming election cycles will serve as a definitive stress test. It remains to be seen whether a political coalition built primarily on cultural progressivism can maintain a reliable national majority. The Democratic Party's greatest historical strength has been its willingness to adapt its identity. Yet this current transformation has reached a point where it is actively alienating the working-class voters it was originally redesigned to protect. To keep tracking these political shifts and explore more deep-dive reporting, visit ShastaUnfiltered.com for honest news and analysis affecting the North State and beyond.